3, 2, 1. All right. Just when you thought we were done live streaming, at least maybe for a couple days, we're back. I'm Coleman Hodges. I'm joined by Olympic medalist, gold medal Mel Stewart, because we have, again, some big news that is almost as big as the 2023 World Championships. We have Claire Curzan, NCAA champion, 2020 Olympian, world champion from 2022, has announced that she is transferring to Virginia from Stanford. Let's give some context to this decision. Earlier in the year, Curzan announced, along with her Stanford teammate Tori Husk, that they would both be taking Olympic red shirts. We then saw Curzan perform. So that means that they will not be competing in the NCAA season, this upcoming season, the 2023-24 season. We then saw Curzan not at her best in all of her events at the 2023 World Champ Trials, even though she did swim a personal best in the 200-meter backstroke, where she got third. She was also third in the 100-meter backstroke. We found out as the meet was progressing that Curzan had been in the hospital with a severe illness a week or two before the trials began. And then after the trials, a couple weeks before World Champs started, Curzan put her name in the transfer portal. And then right after World Champs, she makes this announcement that she is moving to Virginia. So Mel, there's our context. Mel, can you kick this dialogue off into our initial thoughts and our first talking point?
I thought it was a pro move to enter the transfer portal right before World Championships. I'm not saying that she was striving to miss the news cycle, but that is smart to announce that you're in the transfer portal right before World Championships, because there's just a chance that editor-in-chief Braden Keith might miss it. He did not. He never misses anything. But this news came and went because we were reporting hundreds of stories a day on the front end. She was, the goal was to not draw too much attention to yourself. It was a pretty smart move.
It was, and I think we kind of saw a couple other PR decisions during World Championships. We had 2 pregnancies announced. Caleb Dressel announced that Megan and his wife Megan and he are going to be having a baby. I think day 2 to 4 of World Championships, and then after Molly O'Callaghan broke Federica Pellegrini's long-standing 200 free world record, we saw Federica kind of have a cool moment and say, "All right, well, we're going to get it back eventually," and then pointing to the fact that she will be having a baby with her husband Matteo. So I don't love people making big announcements like that during a World Championships. I thought it was cool when Federica did it because her world record got broken and she kind of combined that. But it's like, if you're going to make an announcement like that, like, why not wait until after? And I like Curzan's timing for this one.
Smart. I think a lot of people know this by now. We've been reporting on Curzan since she was 11 and 12. Since she broke Reagan Smith's NAG record, she's been making headlines. And people probably have learned in the process that both her parents are doctors. She's coming out of Cary, North Carolina. She's got great parents. They're engaged. And, some parents do it well. Some parents can be too much. And they kept her life simple and allowed Claire to own her own decisions in her own career and didn't push her too hard. Pretty smart people.
So speaking of these decisions, we're speculating here, but we have some context, and I think we can provide some context. What reasons are there for leaving Stanford? We've seen a few other athletes do this. Reagan Smith took a similar path. She was there for a year and then decided to transfer out. Well, she's now a pro now. She's not in the NCAA system anymore, but she did a year at Stanford and then left. Claire Curzan has now done a year at Stanford and is deciding to leave, but stay in the NCAA program. What reasons do you feel like there are for leaving Stanford?
It's our reporters talked about this. They talked about it earlier. A lot of commenters were talking about it. But I think Braden was the first person to say it. It's like, you know what? If your goals are to be the best in the world or to be among the best in the world, and you have to manage a full load at Stanford, that's probably challenging. And that's you have to take that into account. Stanford has been so dominant for so many decades at the NCAA level. But I think it's fair to say that swimming has gotten more and more intense. And now with name, image, likeness, NIL, you can make money. And it's more so effectively now when you're in college, you're managing a pro career. And if you're great and you're among the best in the world, that you have to take that into account. That's one reason. But it's I think the elephant in the room for anybody, it's everybody that is a swim nerd and a fan and watch the sport, we have seen, and not just while swim has been around for 12 years, but just since the 1970s, athletes who are extraordinary talent coming out of high school, and they're on this upward trajectory that seems like it's almost straight up. They don't necessarily make it in college. Oftentimes they have that weird freshman year. They kind of have to get into a new training program, but we see a lot of talent flag, and they're at top flight D1 programs, and it doesn't work. And I think it can be culture, can be the town, can be your teammates, can be that, you aren't messing with the cult. You're not meshing with the culture. And in the past, you couldn't fix that problem. And now you hit that transfer portal before April 30th. You can fix that if you identify that as a problem and you want to make a change.
So it's really interesting. People are saying the transfer portal explosion. People are kind of worried about it. They're freaking out a little bit. I think a lot of people who are maybe of an older generation or just not used to seeing something like this. But as you said, these aren't swimmers who are transferring. These are people who happen to swim. They're student athletes who have a broad range of interests. We report on swimming, but these people are not just swimmers. They are not just here to entertain us on a year-round basis, even though that's what it feels like sometimes. So the fact of the matter is that when you leave the only home you may have ever known for 18 years, and you're leaving your family, you're leaving your friends, you're leaving your community, you're leaving your swim team to go and start something new, there are a million little pieces that could not be right. And for any individual, that piece could be the tipping point. And like you said, it's academics, it's the culture of the swim team, it's the training of the swim team, it's the town, it's the proximity to family. Like any of those things, when you're an 18-year-old senior in high school, a lot of times you're like, I want to get away from my family. And then you do, and you realize what that means. And you realize you're out of the nest and you're on your own. And sometimes that doesn't feel so good.
The support system matters. It's I really like Claire's parents and had some conversations with them, and they were weighing all these options, and they were weighing, the fact that Stanford is a dynasty. Stanford is a brand that's known globally. No matter how your swimming career goes, you're a graduate of Stanford. That works for you everywhere. Something that should be said is that, Claire's going to UVA. She's going to Todd DeSorbo, and it's like I think everyone sort of went, yeah, like we knew that. As soon as they knew she was in the transfer portal, they're like, she's going to Todd.
Well, and I think it's worth noting, before she made her announcement in high school to Stanford, behind the scenes, everyone thought she was going to Virginia. It was a done deal. And when she announced that she was going to Stanford, it was a big surprise.
It was a little bit, it was a surprise, but it's, UVA and Todd DeSorbo, extraordinarily successful, not immune to the transfers. Emma Wyan, big name, big star. She went to Florida, and we had her on the podcast, and her reasons were pretty simple. She wanted to be close to home. She's like, after the pandemic, after, the last few years, she goes, I just want to be close to mom and dad. You want to be close to a support system. Something that people aren't talking about is that coming out of the pandemic. We're still dealing with the aftermath, and athletes keep talking about their nervous system being fried and anxiety always at a fever pitch at a high level. And a good way to kind of reset is to be close to mom and dad if you're in a healthy family unit.
And Emma, in that specific situation, Emma also has two sisters that she's very close with, both swimmers. Yeah, like you said, support system, it matters.
Greg, we got to talk about Greg Meehan. Greg Meehan at Stanford, because it's where does this leave Greg? Because the commenters on Swam, the Monday morning quarterbacks they've been brutal. So just reference the article, reference Claire's, and then drop down and take a look at it.
Yeah. So sorry, that's Ruby barking in the background. So yeah, people are not being very kind to Greg Meehan, and I think it's unjust. I think unless there is evidence, there is hard evidence that there is wrongdoing by a coach. Unless there has been an investigation done, and we know for a fact that that's what's going on, then I think it's really unfair to say, oh, this is a bad coach or he's created a bad culture, because the reality is you never know what's going on behind those scenes and behind that curtain. And again, I think it's, especially in this day and age, it's much more about the fit. It's about how does this person fit into this culture. And I know from my few visits to Stanford and with Greg, the Stanford women's swim team is a specific culture. He has fostered that to be a specific kind of athlete and a specific kind of person. And it's just not the right fit for everyone. That doesn't mean that they're a bad team. It doesn't mean that he's a bad coach. It doesn't mean that Claire's a bad swimmer. It just means that it doesn't mesh well.
Greg's had success. He's had success. He's had success for a long time. Programs ebb and flow. Greg Meehan's not going to have a problem. He's a great coach. He's not going to have a problem attracting talent to Stanford. And that's the one thing that we always have, is we have new, amazing talent, as we're witnessing right now at junior national championships. So Stanford's going to be okay.
Yeah, we have to remember he's been coaching Olympic level athletes for a decade at Stanford. Like, he has had so much success. I just hate the perspective of like, well, Katie Ledecky didn't go best times under him in long course. That, it's like, she did. She went best times at Stanford. She had a great career there at Stanford. She got a Stanford degree, as did Simone Manuel. And, Simone has been a little more outspoken about her overtraining syndrome and the journey she went with that, about her coach not necessarily listening to her. And I think that is an unfortunate situation, but I think that's 9 times out of 10. I think it's ingrained in our culture that you kind of keep swimming and you push past things. And I think now we're learning to listen a little more and to not do that. So I think Greg Meehan's going to be fine. I also think it's interesting because with a lot of other universities, there's a lot of other great universities to get a great degree. And I think the name brand of Stanford is kind of losing its luster a little bit in this day and age where you can get a degree online. So many kids go to high school online, or are homeschooled. And so now when you can get a degree online, when you don't have to be at a place to have success and to have worldly success, I think it might be a little bit harder to convince someone, hey, come to this very high pressure environment academically and athletically for 4 to 6 years.
But Stanford is going to attract bright kids, top talent. That's not going to change. Something that should be noted. We need to move the conversations forward, but just a note on Simone Manuel, Black Lives Matter happened. Why, and I think that was, I think that the impact, she's been vocal about the impact of that. And imagine having that sort of anxiety and stress and strain, and also trying to be a world-class athlete. It's too much to bear. And that had to be an extraordinary factor in what happened with her overtraining syndrome, because you have to recover. I don't think she was recovering. You can't do it day after day after day. Let's move this conversation to Claire and what this means for the future with Todd DeSorbo.
So it's really interesting. We thought Claire was going to Virginia because of the seemingly natural fit there, Todd being a sprint coach, Claire being a sprinter. And we've seen her branch out from that, just being a sprinter. She goes 206 in the 200-meter backstroke. She's an NCAA champion in the 200-yard backstroke. So I think the question is, what events does she now focus on heading into Olympic trials? We know that Todd is kind of like focus on everything, train everything. We've seen that with Kate Douglas. We've seen it with Gretchen Walsh. We've seen it with Alex Walsh. That they don't like to put people in boxes, right? And they like to swim a lot of events. And Claire has a lot of events, right off the top. For Olympic trials, 50 free, 100 free, 100 fly, 100 back, 200 back, that's 5 events. I don't think you swim 5 events if you're not Michael Phelps at an Olympic trials. But she has a lot of options. And I'm guessing Todd isn't going to focus in on one or the other, right? He's just going to train her to be fast and to be good at everything. And then I think we'll kind of see how that takes form at trials.
As a baseline, when I think about Olympic trials, I think about a couple of things. She's already been to the big show. She's already gone and medaled. The Olympics, a lot of people go and they eat it. They suck. It's terrible. It's a horrible experience. And the problem is, you go there and you realize this isn't a swimming meet. This is a massive corporate convention with sports on the side, and there's a lot of noise going on all around you, and you have to stay focused. So the ability to go to your first Olympics, she popped off her 57, I think it was a 57.65 split on the 4x1 medley in the prelim. She did that. She got her medal. That wires your brain in a great way. So I think that because of that experience, she can be a little more aggressive at these trials, and that's going to go into Todd's calculus. For me personally, when you're on a dominant governing body, first in class, USA Swimming has done really well at on the Olympic platform. If you're an elite athlete, getting on relays matters. And we talked about this before we got on. She is definitely going to be a factor. She's going to be, to get on the medley relay. I would like to see her on the 4x1. To me, she sneaks in and gets 6th in the 100 free. Even if she did it in a semi, or like she just puts up a fast swim, they could put her on a relay. And she's been a 50, 53, 55, the 100-meter freestyle. And that's.
But she was splitting 52s consistently while anchoring relays last year at Worlds.
Relays at the Olympics they make your life very happy.
As an Olympic relay medalist.
As an Olympic relay medalist, it is a completely different experience. There's something about that shared stress level and camaraderie going into, and it's really about Team USA. But she has that potential, and I think that's going to have to be that first initial conversation. It's like, we got 3 bites at the apple: 100 free, 100 fly, 100 back.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think you focus on those hundreds, and then the other ones, might come. 50 free is the 50 free. It's like it's not like that's going to be your focus, but she might do really well. So we wanted to pop on and just have a conversation about this, air these things out, because I think a lot of the times we can only say so much in an article, and then the rest comes from commentary from the commenters. And we just wanted to give our side of the commentary as 2 people who see a little bit behind the curtain of the swimming sphere. Mel, do you have anything else?
I think she's going to be successful. I think she's going to make the Olympic team. I think she's there. Just as we pop on, we just had somebody someone comment, what was that? Alfonso? Wrong. Swimmers care about individual performances. Alfonso, I care about individual performances, and these athletes do too. But there's something about the ability to perform, have a goal of making the Olympic team, Team USA, in an individual event, but also getting that extra event in the relay. It makes your life better. It does a lot for your confidence, and everything is about confidence. And are you grounded during the Olympic experience?
Alfonso says swimmers who aren't good enough use relay medals as a cop out, and I'm kind of curious about that because I think this comes from the NCAA system, right? You hear you hear the Florida swimmers talk about relays and how you always have to have something extra to perform better on relays. As a member of Team USA, you are expected to perform better than your individual performance on a relay. And that doesn't make it a cop out. That means relays are higher ranked than individual swims.
So yeah, you're coming off of. We're not going to call any swimmers out. We're coming off of world champs. Where it's a question like we know what the splits are. Athletes know what the splits are. So when you're interviewing the athletes and someone is off their personal best in a relay, whether it's flat start or flying start, there is. You can feel the weight on their shoulders. They are not smiling. They're extraordinarily unhappy. And they feel like, and also you've let 3 other people down. It's like maybe the color of the medal is not what it should be. It's, and also coaches take that into account going forward. Are you a relay swimmer? Because if you're not, they'll choose there's some people who pop off on relays and they'll make that choice.
Yeah. By logic, relay splits should be faster based on the deduction of reaction time. It says A. Pearson. That's if we were robots. That's if we were robots and you could just swim your best time every single time you fall in a pool. The reality is we're humans and you can't do that. And it takes a lot of mental will to perform in an individual swim. And it takes a lot of mental will to perform on a relay swim too. Just because you get a 0.4 to 0.6 deduction on the start, that doesn't always make the difference. So I think our time's about up. So I'm good if you are, Mel, but thanks for joining in, everyone. Hopefully we'll have more breaking news coming out later this week as we keep rolling with a lot of big meets, but thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you